All right, hello, welcome back to Unqualified Analysis. I'm going to try not to burp here in the intro. I did just get a swig of Coke there because your boy is tired. It's a Monday when I'm recording this, obviously, so that just comes with requisite tiredness, especially when you keep the hours that I do on the weekends, and it is hard to convince yourself to go to bed at a reasonable time when you've just been staying up later than anyone has a right to. I really need to rein that in, but I just want to enjoy every second of the weekend, man. I don't want to fast forward to work. I digress on that front. Already tired from that, and stayed a whole lot later at work than I intended to. I just got caught on a hour and 15-minute phone call that I expected to take about 30 minutes. These things happen. That is all to say, hopefully I don't lose my voice at some point here. I did talk for quite a long time on the phone earlier, but you know what? What was going on? Tangled leg hair. These things happen. We're just gonna power through this thing because we got a huge, massive, monumental sort of episode for you here today. There's that burp. I apologize. Massive news out of college football. We got the House settlement getting final approval from Judge Claudia Wilkin in the Northern District of California. And that basically, we'll talk about it here in just a minute. That's going to be the crux of this episode. Don't know exactly how long I'm going to go through this. I will say I have 2 full pages and 1 little over half page of notes that I just kind of jotted down here over the course of like an hour or two on Sunday. I woke up yesterday as I'm recording this, and I said, listen, I have got to talk about this, and there are a lot of aspects, and I want to do it right, especially with a bit of a legal background that I have. Not that it really came into play a whole lot here, but was able to, sift through some things and get you a little bit of a holistic view on what this House settlement entails. And I am sure I am missing microscopic details. The plan was to read through the full settlement proposal. That was 57 pages. So, I don't feel like doing that kind of work on a Sunday. Would have taken me quite a long time to read through all that dense legal shit. Just didn't. You know what? I decided to get an aggregation of articles by people that had read through that whole thing. And that does not make me a journalist. That makes me an aggregator. I fully understand that. But I've got a pretty good idea of what this settlement entails. So we're going to get into all of those details. Got a couple of headlines to hit on. We'll kind of rapid fire those at the end of the episode because, I guess that there's one big one with Aaron Rodgers signing with the Steelers. We'll talk about that for sure. How long do I spend on it? Kind of depends on how long it takes me to get through this here summary of the House settlement. So, hey, just a warning at the top. If you don't like deep dives into these sorts of things, if you don't like deep dives into how college football is going to work for the foreseeable future, this is ushering in the new era of college football. That's the name of the episode, by the way. That is the name of this is the new era of college football right now. It's the new era of college sports. So, hey, if you don't want to hear the intricate details on how that's going to work, go ahead and skip this one. But if you're intrigued in any sort of way, shape, or form about how college sports are going to look for like the next, 15, 20 years or where we're going with them, stick around. Stick around. Or just, go on your merry way. It's up to you. It's a free country. But I'm your host, Caleb V. Follow me on the socials at CalebVUA. Weird. I don't like how that came out of my mouth, but we're just going to keep it moving. Link to that is down in the description. Basically just Twitter. Boy, Twitter is a wild place. I want to be honest with y'all. If I didn't do this show, I don't know if I would do Twitter at all, and I don't really do Twitter at all in the first place. It's a wild platform. Social media in general. Just an awful place. If you don't have to be on social media, don't do it. But also go share my stuff if you want to, and get me some more followers. That'd be pretty cool. But yeah, just a cesspool social media. But if you want to follow me there, Caleb VUA. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing right there over on Twitter. You can shoot me a DM. Probably the best way to get in contact with me. You can also shoot me an email on qualifiedanalysis@gmail.com, which I check periodically. Maybe once every 2 weeks or so. That seems to come up. Not super regular. So just hit me up. Hit me up on X, Twitter, or whatever you call it. If you call it X, I just don't respect you quite as much. But Outside of that, yeah, I think we're ready to just get on into this thing. Also, I'm sorry if you see or hear me itching my leg down here. About back Memorial Day weekend, I did a little trip across the lake, kayaked with my family, went over, had some beers. I foolishly thought that, hey, my legs never get burned. There's no reason to put on sunscreen now. Ladies and gentlemen, put on the fucking sunscreen. Just do it. I got a terrible sunburn. My shins are now itching. They're shedding skin. It's disgusting. And yeah, just wear the sunscreen, folks. Just wear the sunscreen. So if you see me itching, that's why. It's uncontrollable. I truly cannot stop. It is what it is at this point. But I'm gonna try and keep it at a bare minimum. I'm gonna try and just keep away from the legs right now, because boy, it's not hell, but it's not pleasant. With that said, let's get a swig of this Coke. See what we're doing time-wise. I think I spent entirely too much time on that. Yeah, like 6 minutes on the intro. No reason for that. They're just completely uncalled for on my part. I apologize. But let me get a swig of this. I lied. That was like three gulps. I don't know. What do you consider a swig? Is swig like time from can or whatever you're swigging out of hitting your mouth to time that you put it down, or are we calling a gulp a swig? I don't know. Depends on your definition. That was either one swig or three swigs. Hey, by the Wisconsin definition, I took 3 swigs. If we're talking about in relation to their definition of lakes, different story for a different day. I'm really all over the place today, but get all that stuff out of here. Let's talk about college sports, with an emphasis on college football, because let's be honest, college baseball is probably my next favorite sport, probably in college. And really, I only care about Mississippi State. In that, same thing for basketball. I really only care about Mississippi State. College football, I care a lot about the entirety of the sport. So we're going to be focusing a lot on how this affects college football, but truly, it bears mentioning. I'll mention it again throughout this little summary that I got drafted up here. This is a settlement that affects all of Division I college sports. I don't really know how much it's going to affect Division II or Division III. It will affect them to some certain extent, though. I assure you of that. I don't know if it'll affect them nearly. It certainly won't affect them nearly as greatly as major college sports. But the landscape of college sports and how they're governed and the rules surrounding them is going to completely change here in a couple of weeks. So let's get into it. House settlement. The settlement resolves 3 separate lawsuits, consolidated lawsuits. So little legal thing for you. Just basically doing my job on the air right now, but it is what it is. So you have like a bunch of claimants who are claiming the same thing, pretty much. Like in this case, it was lost wages from NIL earnings, or just basically the focus was on NIL for this. You got a bunch of former players all kind of having the same grievance, all filing lawsuits instead of settling all those individually, or going to trial individually with all of them, and ultimately getting done with the trials sometime in the 24th century or so. They consolidate all those lawsuits into one big lawsuit that they classify as either, in this case, it would be a class action because it's very monetary focused. In other cases, if you're talking about injuries, it's more advantageous to do a consolidated litigation for MDL. Multi-district litigation. I'm not going to, go into the whole spiel with you, but basically, this is a class action mainly because it falls under the financial damages sort of thing. So that was 3 separate class action lawsuits combined into this one settlement to resolve all 3 of them at once. All of them were against the NCAA. Again, all consolidated into one big old class action suit. Lots of consolidation here. You had the initial consolidation, you had another consolidation. Now we got, the settlement to resolve them all. I basically just say this to emphasize that this is a deal to put a definitive end to the NCAA's current courtroom woes. For now. Not to say they won't have more courtroom woes later, because it's almost a guarantee at this point. Though, as you're going to see going forward, their scope of liability is going to be a lot more limited than it was previous to this settlement. So there's a ton of stuff to talk about with this whole settlement, the whole structure of it, everything about it. And I figured, you know what? I work in litigation full-time, not a secret at this point. I'm just not telling you where I work. I have experience reading through some of these settlement agreements. Why not get into the nitty-gritty a little bit and try to explain the full scope of this thing? So, basically, what we're looking at here, and let me get another swig real quick before I dive into it wholeheartedly. That was just a little off-the-top intro for you. We got a couple major provisions that we're going to hit on here within the settlement agreement. I got a few major bullet points. So first off, let's get the boring stuff out of the way. So, and I say boring stuff, it's going to be the headline, but when you really get into the nitty gritty of it, it's about the most boring part of the settlement agreement. So $2.75 billion in damages to be paid to former athletes prior to 2021, which is, when the NIL rules changed and athletes could start making money. So none of the guys that have made NIL money legally have any sort of recourse in this. This is all 2021 and prior. I don't know exactly how far back they go on this. I don't know what the time frame is. Obviously 2021 is the cutoff point, but it's worth asking, when was the entry point, I guess? Is there a specific entry point, or just any living former player that, had any sort of noteworthy name to him could opt into this thing and receive some sort of compensation? I don't know what it was, but that's what it is. $2.7 billion. These payments will be stretched out over 10 years because otherwise the NCAA would go bankrupt and nobody gets paid for a very, very long time. And likely people get paid less because you're just selling off assets in bankruptcy court at that point and then using those proceeds to pay off whatever legal liability you have. So the likelihood of it getting to $2.75 billion if you just forced them all to pay in a lump sum is negligible, pretty much. And what organization is going to agree to a settlement deal where they go bankrupt? Literally none of them. It would make no sense whatsoever from a strategic standpoint. Only way you're going bankrupt is if you lose in trial, essentially. That's one of the big risks of trial, by the way. So it's stretched out over 10 years. Also, the NCAA would cease to exist, which, for all the NCAA's faults, and there's very, very many, there's a whole lot of faults, don't get me wrong, that would be a very bad thing for college athletics as a whole. Probably wouldn't affect Division I too much. They would probably figure it out. I'm thinking of like Division III, Division II. Without an organization like the NCAA, it would be utter chaos in a way that's completely unsustainable, in a way that they're just going to basically collapse when it's all said and done. So, for all the NCAA's faults, they need to be kept around, or some equivalent organization needs to be kept around for the nominal good of athletes, at the very least to keep it on the rails, if nothing else. But that's just a regular old boring standard settlement there. $2.75 billion paid out over 10 years, and it's not on a rolling basis, I would imagine, either. I would imagine these players are going to be getting a yearly interest payment every single year throughout this 10-year period, so it's a nice little sustainable source of income. Who knows how many players are going to opt into that thing? That thing might just be spread out over a number of players and ultimately not amount to a whole lot when it's said and done for the individual. But a large organization, basically, that's the gist of it. A large organization put profits over people. Now those people are getting compensated. That's just regular old litigation from a big time perspective. Here come the parts where sports fans will actually care about, because I contend no one really cares about the $2.75 billion thing. That's just, again, litigation stuff. That's in one ear, out the other the next week, essentially. No one's going to be thinking about that. Here's some stuff coming up that the college sports fans truly will care about. College sports, especially the revenue-generating sports, are about to change forever. And that's not an exaggeration. Let's get into it right off the bat. A lot of it's stuff that you've already heard about, but it's stuff that I want to get a little bit deeper on now that it is fully approved. Nothing standing in the way of this thing going into effect. This is going to happen like it is laid out as I say it. So, first and foremost, biggest headline that everyone's going to see: $20.5 million per year or per school to pay athletes in revenue share in this new revenue share model. That's not just for football players. That is for all sports, all Division I athletes, regardless of sport. How that pie is divvied up is up to the schools, from what I understand, unless they impose a hard pie chart on how to split that up money wise. I think that'll probably just be left up to schools' discretion on how they want to spend that money, and I think that's how you should leave it up to, because different schools value different things. I feel like you look at a school like Mississippi State. I feel like Mississippi State is going to put a whole lot more money into baseball than a lot of other schools might. Then you go over and you look at, say, Vanderbilt. Same thing. They're going to put a lot more money into baseball than a lot of other teams will. You look at a school like Kansas. They'll probably invest a lot more in basketball than some other schools will. Same thing with UConn, so on and so forth. Case-by-case basis, I don't think putting like a hard and fast like pie chart. This is the percentage split that has to go to football. This is what has to go to basketball, track and field, soccer, blah, 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 blah. Shouldn't go that way. Should be up to the schools to kind of divvy that up. That number, $20.5 million, that's going to incrementally increase annually, essentially acting as a salary cap in college athletics. Let's just be absolutely clear on this, by the way. What I just said there, let's focus on that. This is the very first time, mind you, that schools will be allowed to directly pay players. We know they've done it before in the past through various means and subterfuge and go-betweens, proxies, if you will. But this is the very first time in the history of college athletics that schools are going to be allowed to make direct payments to players. No shady boosters as middlemen, none of those proxies I just talked about. We're talking direct deposit from the school to the athlete's bank account. Never happened before, and we got to take a moment to acknowledge just how wild it is. Battle's not over yet. We're going to talk about a few more, at least one more provision here that kind of signals where this is going in the future, because obviously everything is not done and settled as far as maybe not necessarily litigation, but legislation perhaps. Something we'll talk about here in just a second. But this should tell you where it's going, and it's crazy that we have gotten here. But what is next? NIL is not going anywhere, but we are getting some guardrails on it that we did not have before, which I think will ultimately be beneficial, though not completely foolproof. Let me explain a little bit. So try to act shocked when you hear this. I know this is a company that never comes up for anything, especially when you talk about delving for money in athletics. This is a company that never comes up, so try to act shocked here. But Deloitte, the big nominally accounting company or accounting firm, really in practice, this big amorphous consulting company that seems to have their fingers in every pie known to man, that Deloitte has stepped in to set up an NIL clearinghouse of sorts called NIL Go. The stated goal seems to be upholding the spirit of what NIL is supposed to be, that being making money off of your image, not essentially acting as a salary paid by a third party, which is what it has been, and what it's likely going to have to be this year while they figure out some stuff. Will not be this way in 2026, though. I guarantee you of that. It's just, given the timing, you can't be going torpedoing deals that have already been signed, because that's going to cause a lot of unintended chaos that can probably be avoided by putting a pin in it for now and then revisiting it in the offseason. So I'm unsure of the criteria they're going to use for this. Really, it kind of, again, seems a bit vague, a bit amorphous even, as Deloitte the company is itself. So I don't know what they're using to make these determinations, but they will reject deals that they deem to be pay for play as opposed to a true endorsement deal. So if it looks like a salary, then they're probably going to flag it, and then they're going to reject it. Little side note, by the way, they're apparently using quote software developed by Deloitte to evaluate all of these NIL deals. Reading between the lines there, if you don't know what that means, they're running these deals through AI to see if they're fair or not, essentially, to basically see if the kid is getting screwed and if this is pay for play. Essentially, they're just running it through AI. And by the way, something like this is happening in pretty much every industry in the world at the moment, not just the country, in the world. So a little bit creepy, a little bit dystopian, but something we're just going to have to get used to, because unfortunately that's reality. And especially if this House bill passes, where they're talking about, a little you gotta love the legislation on Capitol Hill, man. They'll just pigeonhole little shit in there. They'll just put it right in there, just a little line on page 250 something of the bill. It's a 500-page bill, sandwiched right there in the middle. They just kind of threw in a little clause that, oh, by the way, government can't make any restrictions on AI for the next decade. So if that bill passes, that becomes law. Not good. Not good. And this is only going to get worse, by the way, if that ultimately ends up passing. I'm not talking about anything else in that bill. That specific clause, if that ends up going to the finish line, is going to make this even more proliferated. So something to keep in mind. A little bit off topic, but something I felt like pointing out because it's pervasive nowadays. There are some guardrails in place, though, because you absolutely need guardrails for AI. Just saying. I've worked with AI before in my current job, and if you don't have a human there to check its work, it's prone to making some mistakes. We'll just say that. So, what did they do? There's going to be an appeals panel selected by the NCAA to review appeals from the NIL collectives or the athletes to appeal those NIL deals. So, you have the AI doing the initial sift through, but if the AI rejects it, the athletes can appeal to have humans go back and review it, take a look at the facts, use their human judgment, and then come back with a final decision. So I think that's a fair compromise on that one. And honestly, if you're not using AI in some form or fashion, you're falling behind on the time. So I mean, they gotta incorporate it somewhere. I don't love it, but I also don't hate it either. I understand it is what it is. With all that being said, come on, guys. What do we know about these college football fans, particularly these college football boosters? I got the utmost faith in these boosters, these rich people that just want to see their alma maters or the school that they've cheered for their entire life succeed. I have the utmost faith in them to do everything in their power to still essentially make these contracts pay for play. These are smart people, man. They're not all smart people, don't get me wrong, but the people that are going to be writing out these deals, in all likelihood, especially the lawyers that are going to actually be writing those deals, people that have a degree might not be the right word. They passed the bar and now they work in contract law. We'll just put it that way. Brain fart there. We got attorneys working on this thing. What do you want me to say? We got lawyers writing these things up. They are smart people. They will make the contracts look pretty. They will make sure that thing is absolutely ready for approval. Something that's going to get past the AI, and they'll learn the AI's tricks over time. I mean, it's just one of the fun things to follow here over the years, because cheating's never going away in college football. One of the fun things to watch here going over these next couple of years is the race between the boosters and the AI to see if the boosters can trick the AI and if the AI can catch on fast enough to catch the deals that are trying to trick it. That's going to be an interesting thing to follow over the next couple of years. And I have the utmost faith in these boosters to win that battle, unfortunately. That being said, I do think in a lot of cases it's going to work. Many of these deals are just going to be structured in a way to where the effect is going to be the same if I had to guess. Important step, though. These are guardrails that were not in place before. There was no vetting process. It was truly the Wild West before. So not a perfect solution. A solution that I'm sure will be adapted over time, especially as the times do change. But it's important. It is important to have something like this in place so you can build off of it and improve it over time. You don't have anything to improve off of if you don't make it in the first place. So I'm not going to poo-poo this thing. It's not my favorite idea, but it's not a terrible idea either. And I think it's going to get better I think it's going to look better over time. So I like that provision in there as well. What's the next thing we got coming up here? Roster limits. As part of the settlement, the NCAA is implementing roster limits in lieu of scholarship limits. So no more cap on scholarships you can provide, but for a college football roster, this means the roster is capped at 105 players when you had some teams going north of 130, 140. I mean, just crazy, giant rosters, 1 million walk-ons there. But no scholarship cap. So in short, rosters are going to be slimmed down, but everyone is getting paid to some extent. Fair compromise in my mind. If you really want to go play college football and you're a walk-on, maybe you can transfer somewhere else. I know it's probably your dream, but if you're past 105 on the roster, come on, man, just sit in the stands. It'll be more fun for you, man. Show up early. Hey, do what I did. Show up early to the games, get some paint on your chest, get a front row seat. Come on, man. I can tell you're a super fan already. Just maybe it's time to hang it up, but if you really want to keep playing football, there's options for you out there. I'm sure there's options for you out there. You can go somewhere else, a lower level D1 school. Probably not going to have the same college experience necessarily like you would at the school that you love back there, but that is also an option. So I don't hate this either. I mean, it's gonna make some kids not play football anymore. Probably a large number, but rosters have already been slimmed down to reflect these changes. The NCAA has proposed many of these rules long ago. These schools have known about this for quite some time. The schools are ready. It's just a matter of whether the infrastructure can be built up in the breakneck short amount of time that it needs to be built up in order to be functional and effective in this upcoming season. You heard me right, the upcoming season. We'll talk about the actual start date of this in just a minute, trust me. Also, we beaten around it a little bit. I would say the biggest part of this new settlement and the most monumental shift of this new settlement is there's a new sheriff in town in college athletics. As part of the settlement, a new governing body has been set up to run college sports as a whole, the aptly named College Sports Commission, which will now take pretty much every enforcement responsibility away from the NCAA for the most part. So the body will essentially take the place of the NCAA's enforcement arm, like I said, when it comes to NIL, general compliance, and enforcement to uphold the terms of the House settlement. That's what they've been set up to do, to make sure that the terms of this settlement are continuing to be upheld in perpetuity. The NCAA is not dead. Do not get me wrong on that. They have been marginalized, relegated to regulating academic matters and matters of fairness, eligibility, that sort of stuff. So they already really didn't do shit with NIL because they were, neutered in the courtrooms essentially by court orders, by judges. So they have, the semblance that they had of control over that stuff and enforcement power over that stuff, that's gone. That's now in the hands of the College Sports Commission, and that's who's going to be running that sort of stuff from now on. That is all to say, though, no, Michigan, you are not off the hook yet with the NCAA, and you're not off the hook at all, my friend. You're not off the hook at all. In fact, I feel like the NCAA actually gained more teeth in this thing. Maybe not directly, but there has been a very clear line drawn where their powers start and end. We'll talk about that here in just a second. But the CEO of this new governing body, the College Sports Commission, is former MLB Executive VP of Legal and Operations, Brian Seeley, who brings a wealth of investigative experience to the table. That's the main thing why they brought him on, because basically the College Sports Commission is an enforcement arm. Call it what it is. They are there to enforce the rules that the NCAA implements for the most part, that they implement, that the House settlement stipulates. They're going to govern all that, and their job is to dole out punishments to those who deserve it, and they have the authority to do so. Absolutely. Court-ordered authority to do so, actually. This thing is so new that we don't really know what the ultimate lasting structure of the College Sports Commission will be. In my pie-in-the-sky brain, though, obviously I would kind of want sub-departments to govern individual sports. So you have a college football commission that covers the college football playoff, all that sort of stuff, and kind of acts as the governing arm for that. Same thing with basketball, baseball, so on and so forth. You have little sub departments to take care of each sport. That's my pie in the sky thought. I think it may ultimately just kind of work out a lot like the NCAA, where it's overarching. I would love to have kind of different commissioners for each sport, and then each of those commissioners answer to the head honcho, El Jefe himself, Brian Seeley. That's my pie-in-the-sky view of how I'd love to see this thing structured. That'll play out over time. We really don't know what the internal structure of the College Sports Commission is going to look like, because that thing just got created last week. For all intents and purposes, they'd probably been doing recruiting. Brian Seeley was not officially hired until last week. He'd probably been doing work behind the scenes, but the organization itself is less than a week old, so it is still very much in flux. They are still figuring out how this thing is going to be structured. This is not exactly what we've been clamoring for. In college football specifically, we want a college football commissioner that is solely focused on college football, like Roger Goodell is with the NFL. But now we have a real regulatory body with some teeth, which is not what we have had with the NCAA nominally running things over the last, 5 to 10 years, really. They've lost power incrementally year after year until, they were basically relegated before because the court just neutered all their powers. Now the court has essentially handed their powers to this College Football Commission. So that is what the new era of college football is going to look like. You're not going to be seeing a lot of punishments coming down from the NCAA. You're going to be seeing those traditional ones where it's like, they can't really do anything about recruiting violations anymore, I would say, for the most part. Except for loopholes that kid stepped into unknowingly. They're not really going to be doing anything about that. Academic stuff, for sure. They can make academic sanctions on teams. Everything to do with eligibility is still in their purview, but you're going to be seeing these, anything recruiting related or NIL related or anything like that, that's going to be coming down from the College Sports Commission from now on. That's going to be a major change that you're going to notice right away in this upcoming season, I would imagine, because I'm sure they're going to have to do something. They can't just stay in the background the whole time. They're going to have to hand down some sort of decision at some point throughout the course of this season. So interested to see how that all kind of plays out. We really don't know what it's going to look like yet, but fascinating stuff, I'll say. Also, interesting provision that's not going to get talked about a whole lot, but I wanted to bring it up because I think it's a big provision. The plaintiff lawyers can't lobby in Congress on the issue of athlete compensation anymore. So it's a provision in Article 7 of the settlement agreement. It bars any plaintiff representation from lobbying in Congress over the issues laid out in the settlement, i.e. payment and compensation for athletes. And you may be asking, why is this important? Essentially, as you know, there is an ongoing kind of lobbying effort by the NCAA to keep the amateurism status and have legislation codifying that go through Congress so that athletes can keep the amateurism status and they don't have to be considered professional. I don't know exactly what that benefit ends up being. I think the real benefit is that they don't have to do collective bargaining at that point, which is what they really want to avoid like the plague. So yeah, I don't know exactly, but essentially the plaintiff representation can no longer lobby against amateurism status in college sports, which kind of cuts off the cause at the knees, because that's very, very valuable input, very valuable testimony if need be. This is just one of those compromises you make in order to get a settlement done. You're not going to love every provision. That's how you know it's a fair settlement, I would say. But that's valuable input that is being legally sidelined for future legislative battles over the issue. So in the long run, I mean, the conferences came out gangbusters in this, I would say, because they can open up the coin purse a little bit more, incentivize athletes, probably make the product a little bit better, probably scale up investment as well. I would imagine it's going to allow them to do. And now they eliminated one major enemy in their fight to keep the amateurism status in college sports. So interesting provision. It's not going to get talked about a whole lot, but that's a chess move right there by the conferences and by the schools in particular to get that little provision in there. That's not thinking in 2025. That's thinking in like 2035. Hey, got to take your hats off to them. They're not idiots going into this thing that are negotiating this. They knew exactly what they were doing with that, and I would imagine the plaintiff lawyers knew what they were doing whenever they signed up for that as well. Again, just for the greater good, you do have to make sacrifices at various points, is what it is. Back to the crux of the settlement here. No word on limiting transfers, but I am taking the optimistic long-term view on this. I think people would have loved kind of a hard and fast transfer rule, kind of limiting player movement, making it a little bit more like it once was. It's never going back to the way it once was, where you have to sit out a year mandatory if you transfer from somewhere. But making it kind of similar, that's, I think, what people are clamoring for, and I think people were hoping to have in the House settlement. But some things are better left for the governing bodies to figure out, I believe, and just figure that out after the fact, I would say, is the main sort of thing that I would take away from this. Adding a provision like that into a settlement that is so broad like this is, I mean, it's just a bridge too far, and it's just a little bit too specific for what the deal was trying to accomplish. So really what you want from this deal, and I think what we got from this deal, is you want it to set up a framework for how college sports is going to be governed for a long, long time. We're not talking 10, 15 years. We're talking 20, 30 years. It's not going to look exactly the same, but this is the framework that this is going to be run on for a long time going forward. And that's the goal of this. Adding a little transfer provision that going to be hard to edit, especially, in a settlement like this. It's a little bit different when it's coming down from a court rather than an internal rule that you make that you can kind of edit if it's a little bit too punitive or a little bit too lax later. I think it would have been short-sighted to include that clause and just too difficult to adapt if need be in the future. So I'm perfectly fine, absolutely perfectly fine with not including a transfer thing there. That'll come in due time. I truly do think that once we get through this initial period of turbulence, and trust me, this, like, through the end of 2025, we're going to be seeing torrid amounts of movement. I mean, just ridiculous amounts of chaos. It's going to look chaotic at points. You're going to be wondering, is this going to work out? Just be patient. Once we get through this turbulence and all this chaos, we get, into a little bit more stable situation, get the full organization built from the ground up in a, short period of time, which that's what's going to happen. Then I think we'll see the NCAA, and that's, again, we're talking about eligibility issues here. That's the NCAA's purview at this point. I think at that point we're going to see the NCAA circle back around and take a look at the transfer rules. The main difference now that I say, and maybe I'm misinterpreting this, maybe the NCAA itself will still be handling the main enforcement of this. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But the main difference for me now that the House settlement is going into effect is that the NCAA finally has a clarity on the future. They have a court-ordered clarity on their roles, which is not something that they had before. If there is one positive to come out of it, it is that, hey, the NCAA has very clearly defined responsibilities based on this settlement agreement that are going to be lasting, and they're going to be binding, I would say, which is not something that they've had in the past. They have clarity on the future, what the future is going to look like, and what their role is going to be going forward, which is a huge thing. Now, they seemingly have the power to make changes to the transfer portal rules and all that sort of stuff, and they have an enforcement arm that can hand down real enforceable punishments to make sure those rules are upheld, which you can make a big-time argument that the NCAA was scared to death to do that sort of stuff in the past because they really, one, didn't know what the future held with the House settlement because they were still negotiating it at the time and it wasn't fully formed and wasn't fully solidified yet. And two, they were dead scared, and they still might be to a certain extent, dead scared that they're going to hand down a punishment and a school is going to say, you know what? We call your bluff. We're taking you to court, and then the court just smacks them right down. I feel like courts are going to have less of an inclination to be able to do that and less power to do that. Again, there wasn't a court ruling, so this isn't exactly legal precedent. But they do have a clearly defined role in this settlement and an enforcement arm to back it up. So I think it does kind of beef up. It slims down their responsibilities and their power to a certain extent. But with the power that they've retained, I think they've really strengthened that power through this settlement, which ultimately don't love the NCAA, but they needed to have more power and more balance in the sport because the sport's been, college sports in general, the schools have been running amok for quite some time because the NCAA is a flimsy, ineffectual organization when it comes to enforcing on many things. Now they're more focused. Now they can really kind of hone in and crack down on certain things that they need to crack down on, hopefully without being punitive. You never know. You never know with the NCAA, but ultimately I think it's a good thing. I don't think we see public movement on the transfer issue in 2025. But don't be surprised if we get rule changes on this as early as next year. In fact, I think that would be the expectation for me, is that maybe not wholesale changes, but a little change here and there. Maybe we just make it one transfer portal window. Still keep the unlimited transfers for now, but we make it one transfer portal window. Maybe we limit the transfers this offseason. I don't know. I just feel like we're going to have some degree of changes coming down the pipe here. I have a hard time seeing that not happen. There's just going to be such an era of chaos starting off that they're really not going to have time to focus on that thing initially. At least I don't think. They may surprise me on that front. They got a lot of stuff to figure out here in the fall to get everything established before they really start thinking about really kind of locking in what this sport is going to look like here over the next 5 years, I would say. Maybe even less time than that, but to get it all stabilized. I don't think we're far off from getting some stability here in college sports. But just some general thoughts here to close out the discussion. I hit on the major points there for the House settlement. I think this is a very good deal for college football. It provides a lot of clarity that was not there 6 months ago even. And it provides a roadmap to where we're going in the future, which I don't think the majority of people watching the sport really knew. And I'd say a large portion of people within the sport really didn't know what it's going to look like here in the next couple of years. Now, the major changes have been made. That's the main thing. The major changes have been made. There are a few more big changes to come. Don't get me wrong on that. It's not going to make the sport fairer necessarily. That's kind of here or there. It is still a good deal in my mind, and I think it is a big-time step in the right direction that's going to ultimately, not overnight, it's going to be turbulent initially, but over time you're going to see it solidify in a way that I don't think is all that bad. It's going to be different. It'll never be the same as what it was in 2009, 2010, the early 2010s, just We're never getting that back. It's never going to be that way again, but maybe the new form that college sports and particularly college football takes is still pretty good. I like to think that way anyways, but I do want to emphasize again, it's not going to make the sport of college football, or really college sports in general, any fairer. You basically just given every college football program the same amount of money to spend every year on players, which makes that quote-unquote advantage null and void for the most part, because everyone has the same amount of money. It's just a matter of how you spend that money, but everyone is given the same amount of money every single year. So it's not really an advantage. Probably raises the floor, which is a good thing. Don't get me wrong. And I love that. I really do. Teams that couldn't pay players before now have $20.5 million to pay their players. I think it's beautiful. I love to see it. But at the same time, the differentiator at the top is still going to be NIL. It's what it has been over the last several years. Really, even before NIL was a thing, you could just extrapolate that into brands, because the NIL is pretty well correlated with the brand of the school itself. The differentiator is still going to be NIL, and the money that you can put together in NIL. Whatever form that NIL takes now, obviously the deal is going to have to be structured differently now that the NIL Go is in place, and you're going to have to put those deals through a filter first to make sure that they are not pay for play. That is going to inevitably change, at the very least, the structure of these deals and what they are entailing. It's still going to be the big differentiator, though, when it's all said and done. What can your collective do for the athletes in said collective? That's what remains to be seen. I mean, we've seen it happen for every school that's really gone big into NIL, I would say. Maybe not every school, but you get what you pay for the most part, and that's not really changing. The differentiator is still going to be NIL, but the floor is probably going to be a little bit higher than it otherwise would be with these schools handing out $20.5 million a year. Not terrible. So there's still some playoff things to figure out. I guess we'll probably see some movement on that here in the coming months. We've already seen, I would imagine probably even before the season starts, they're going to approve a 16-team playoff. We'll see if that's the final structure it takes. Who the hell knows with these greedy sons of bitches? They're gonna do whatever extracts the most money out of the sport, because that's what those capitalistic motherfuckers do. But whatever, man. Still some things to figure out with the playoff. Transfer portal issue remains unresolved, as I said before. But this is the first domino of several. This is just the first domino. I think it's going to be a crazy fall of news on the structure of the sport. I'm here for it. I'm here for it, and yeah, in the long run, I think this is going to lead to a lasting peace and stability in college football, which is truly all I asked. I want the madness with the transfer portal to end. I just want us to settle on a playoff format and stop fucking changing it. I didn't want to expand it to 12 in the first place. Now that we're trapped here, I'm just going to live with it. Whatever. Whether it's 16 or whatever you want to do with it, just stop expanding the goddamn thing and just settle on a format. I don't want to litigate this anymore. I just want it done with. I want stability in the sport. I don't want everything changing every 5 minutes like it seems to have happened now. And I think that's coming. In the next 3 to 5 years, I'll put it this way. By 2030, I think we're going to be in a much better spot than we are right now. That's my optimistic viewpoint. I think a lot of things that I just talked about there are going to be smoothed over, solidified. We're not going to be questioning more conference realignment, at least not nearly to the degree we were before. I think we're reaching a crescendo here soon with the conference alignment. I think we still have like one more big eruption to go. But yeah, I don't think we're done. I don't think we're done with that necessarily. I think we are reaching the crescendo, though. I think we're getting close to the end. I think we got maybe one more round of this, and then things are going to kind of smooth over. Probably with the SEC and Big Ten each having like 18 to 20 teams. Kind of just is what it is. Maybe if there was one conference that I could see like just hoovering up 32 teams. It's the Big 12, so I don't put it past them. They could probably try to absorb the entire ACC, and I wouldn't bat an eye at it because it's the Big 12. They do this crazy desperate shit all the time, so I don't really think anything of it. But again, I think by 2030, we're gonna have ourselves a sport that we can be proud of again. In a way that we're not necessarily proud of here in 2025. Things are moving in the right direction. If there's anything you should take from this conversation, is that things are absolutely moving in the right direction in college sports, and I'm excited for it. And with all that said, the House settlement will go into effect on July 1, 2025. 3 weeks to the day that this episode releases. Ladies and gentlemen, on July 1, 2025, we are entering the new era of college sports, and in particular, the new era of college football. I, for one, am looking forward to it. All right, there we go. That's my little discussion on the House settlement. We went a long time on that one. I anticipated going a long time, too. That's just, I knew when I drafted up that document and when I started really getting in the weeds with it that was going to last a long, long time, and like 45 minutes. What are we going to do? What are you going to do? Just a couple more quick headlines here to wrap us up, though. So, Rashad Bateman signed a 3-year, I believe it's a $38 million extension. I believe they use the same sort of guarantee structure that's like standard. So, first 2 years essentially guaranteed, third-year option essentially for the team, where nothing is guaranteed there. Rashad Bateman probably could have signed for more. Hey, give it up to the organization for writing a good deal, but Rashad Bateman probably could have got more than 3 years, 38. Maybe he couldn't have, though, with the injury history. Who's to say? Anthony Richardson is hurt. Color me shocked. Daniel Jones is going to take that job, man. That's really all I have to say on that. I've truly, and you can go back, I have given the optimistic point of view because it is truly a downer to just be negative all the time. I have truly never believed in Anthony Richardson as a prospect. This is one of those, and I'm taking off my glasses because I'm getting serious here. This is just one of those, like, over-analysis sort of things that draft people, like NFL draft nerds, do this shit all the time, where they won't watch a lick of college football. They'll barely tune into a Florida game at all. They won't follow Anthony Richardson for his entire college career until he jumps off the screen in like his junior year or something like that. And then at that point, you don't actually watch the games, you just watch the film, so you fixate on the things that he can do and conveniently ignore or kind of explain away or convince yourself that the things that he can't do are either insignificant or they're fixable. Listen, man, anyone that watched Anthony Richardson in college knew it was going to take a ridiculously good development situation, and even then it was going to be a long shot. I have never been sold on Anthony Richardson as an NFL quarterback here. I'll just put my glasses back on because I can't see bullshit. I can see it now, but I couldn't see it before. Anthony Richardson, man, they're not going to... I think they have to make a decision. I think they already had to make the decision. I don't think they picked up his fifth-year option, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe they did. I don't know. Anthony Richardson is he's not the Colts' long-term quarterback. And Shane Steichen kind of got hosed in this whole thing. He's not had a quarterback that can throw since the day that he stepped into the facility. You can say that Anthony Richardson can throw. In the most literal sense of the word, he can huck the shit out of a pigskin. Maybe the strongest arm in the NFL, right up there with like a Joe Milton type, which again, kind of parallel sort of players where he's not accurate. He's not accurate in the short. He's not accurate in the intermediary. Every once in a while, he throws a good deep pass that'll make you go, wow. But for every one of those, there's about 10 passes where you're like, what the fuck is this guy doing? Who is he throwing to? One of the most inaccurate quarterbacks in the entire league. And then you hear things like he had to learn how to work He pulled himself out of a live NFL football game because he was, quote, tired, and he didn't see the issue with doing that as the quarterback of the football team. And listen, man, that when I saw that I believe that was last season, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe the season before. I don't remember exactly which one it was. I think it was last season, if we're being honest here. Oh yeah, he's going into his third year now. So yeah, they have to make a decision about his fifth year option after this year. They're not picking it up. But once I heard that, any little bit of hope that I had left for Anthony Richardson is gone. Listen, that's not something that anyone should have to tell you. You should have the competitive fire. You should have the competitive fire in your soul as the quarterback to where if you're tired, don't give a fuck. I'm staying in there because I give my team the best chance to win because I'm the goddamn quarterback. Quarterbacks don't take breathers, man. They take breathers when they go to the sidelines, they sit down, and they grab that fucking iPad. You don't pull yourself out of a game because you're fucking tired. You pull yourself out of a game because your arm has fallen off or your ankle is broken. They should be trying to drag you off the football field, and you're pulling yourself out of a game, like an NFL football game, as a quarterback because you are tired. That's all I had to hear. I'm out on Anthony Richardson. I'm shocked they have not tried to move on from him. I guess you're still trying to hold out hope because, drafted him, 5, 6 overall, whatever it was, really high draft pick. You know what? Sometimes you just have to cut bait and realize that you made a mistake. Simple as that. He just ain't got it. He just ain't got it between the ears. I mean that from a mentality standpoint. I mean that from a reading defenses standpoint. He ain't there. He ain't there, and he ain't going to get there. That's just, you can keep fooling yourself with this. You can, you draft nerds, you can keep on, fooling yourself with the tangibles and, these amazing athletic measurables. Doesn't mean shit if he ain't got it between the ears, man. And I just don't think Anthony Richardson has it. That's a harsh critique, but listen, man, Daniel Jones don't really have between the ears either. Daniel Jones is taking his job. I mean, to call it what it is, Daniel Jones is going to take his job, and I don't think either of them are going to be there next year. Maybe Daniel Jones is next year. You're probably going to try and keep Anthony Richardson because you're still stuck with him for another year before you can cut bait after the 4th year. But they're going to be in the market for a new quarterback here soon. That's a guarantee from me to you. Unless Anthony Richardson shows me something he has not shown for the first 2 full years, specifically staying healthy, which again, I don't think he can do that either. I just have no faith in Anthony Richardson, and this is just another nail in the coffin, if you will, so to speak. Yes, the drama king himself has finally signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers, that being Aaron Rodgers. He signed a 1-year deal, I guess nominally worth up to 18 or 17. Base salary is like 13 and some change. Pretty reasonable for a guy of his pedigree at his age. You're not paying him $25-30 million to come in. But you're also not paying him any less than 10 because that's still Aaron fucking Rodgers. So, yeah, he just decided to take a little siesta for voluntary OTAs, and now he's showing up. Will that lead to winning? Most likely no, but you know what? We'll see. We'll see. I'm so sick and tired of talking about Aaron Rodgers. I think from a football perspective, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's certainly the only option they truly had because you're not rolling into a season with Mason Rudolph as your starting QB, especially not Mike Tomlin. Oh, buddy, that's simply not going to happen. But, hey, you bring in Aaron Rodgers. We'll see what he has left in the tank. Arm is not what it once was, but it's still live enough. The mobility is the real issue. The offensive line in front of him, while I think it's going to be better than what the Jets had in front of him, they still have some issues. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how the running game shapes out. Ultimately, though, if Aaron Rodgers can put in a solid season, the Steelers could do some stuff here. Defense, still a little bit of a question mark at cornerback right now, but you have Joey Porter Jr., solid number 1 corner, I would say at this point. You're not nothing to write home about for the most part, but solid number 1 corner. They hit on that draft pick a couple years ago. Sign Patrick Queen in free agency. You still have T.J. Watt in the prime of his career for however much longer that lasts. You got Cam Hayward, Alex Highsmith. Defense is still pretty damn good. You got DK Metcalf in there. Receivers, maybe not fantastic, but you do have a bona fide number one now instead of a guy that you can't really count on week in, week out like they could with George Pickens. Solid backfield. I like Caleb Johnson. Just maybe don't like them picking him in like the second round. Yeah, I mean, I don't hate this at all. Jaylen Warren, still there, still a very good back. Sneaky good team, the Steelers. They're not terrible. I just, yeah, I don't know. They're going to have to prove something to me, and just the Aaron Rodgers does kind of stick in the mouth a little bit. It kind of tempers my excitement to watch them. But we'll see. We'll see how it all works out. I am done talking about the drama queen, though. Two more headlines here. I'll just hit them real quick. So Nick Chubb, former Browns running back, formerly really the best running back in the league before he sustained that gruesome knee injury. I guess it was 2 seasons ago at this point on a Thursday night game. He is signing with the Houston Texans on a 1-year deal. That just became official today on Monday after he passed his physical. So, bit of a stable of backs they got down there. Aging backs, but very good backs nonetheless, with Joe Mixon heading up that thing. You got Nick Chubb coming in to spell him. We'll see where he falls in the rotation. They got a couple other running backs. Dameon Pierce is probably on his way out, I would imagine. He really did not turn in a great performance last season, so writing's kind of on the wall for that one. But, hey man, they're kind of building an offense that seems to be kind of operating around a bad offensive line. Because, folks, ladies and gentlemen, what do you do when you have a bad offensive line? What's the best way to help out a bad offensive line? Get the boys moving downhill, and that is exactly what they're trying to do, obviously. You pick up Nick Chubb. You already have Joe Mixon in there. Just smash mouth football, boys. Just run it. Just absolutely run it. That will help out the confidence of the offensive line. So I fuck with the vision. I fuck with the vision on that one. And then final headline here. One that we pretty much all saw coming. The Packers officially cut Jair Alexander after a weird season of phantom injuries and discontent. He just didn't play for like the last, several games in the season. He didn't play for a long time to end off the season. There was questions about whether it was a knee injury, whether it was him requesting a trade, and then ultimately being told to stay away from the facility. Who the hell knows? All I know is Jair Alexander is a free agent now. He's free to sign wherever. I think you'd have to take a long, hard look at the health situation and probably have to bring him in for a workout, I would say. Though the market might demand otherwise, depending on how teams feel about him. He is, a former bona fide number one cornerback. Who knows what he is right now. But I'd take a long, hard look at the health situation. That's a guy, though, if you can count on his health to a certain extent, absolutely I want him on my team. We're talking about a former, widely considered one of the better cornerbacks in the league for quite a few years there. That's what Jair Alexander was. Whether earned or not, you can debate. I think he was pretty damn good at the peak of his powers, and maybe he's not there anymore. But if you can get a fraction of that and good health to boot, why not bring in Jair Alexander? If you got the cap space to spend, why not go spend it? That's a piece that could really help you out if it ends up working out. And I think regardless, it's going to be a 1-year deal. So, I mean, hey, the risk-reward calculation is not bad right now. I mean, you're not going to have to carry dead cap in for years to come in all likelihood. You just sign into 1 year. If it doesn't work out, oh well, is what it is. We can just, rinse our hands of it next season. But if it works out, it could work out gangbusters. So I am very intrigued to see where Jair Alexander ends up. Something I'll be following here over the coming weeks. Maybe the health situation is worse than I expect. And if the health situation is a giant concern, you're going to see Jair Alexander sitting there for quite some time. That's going to be the telltale indicator. If you don't see Jair Alexander sign within the next week or two, I would say if this thing kind of stretches into July, creeping up on training camp, the reason is for actual bona fide health, probably specifically related to the lower body and kind of how Jair Alexander is moving nowadays. That's going to be the telltale sign. I think there's a good chance you see him sign in the next week or two, but like I said, also a good chance that you see this thing kind of stretch out. I have a hard time seeing him not being on someone's training camp roster, most likely in the NFC North, because, listen, man, Jeff Hafley's still the defensive coordinator. Jair Alexander just spent an entire season in Jeff Hafley's defense. Why wouldn't you want to bring in a double agent? We'll just put it that way. Why wouldn't you want to bring in a foreign operative to give you some intelligence on how the defense works so you can better game plan around their specific strengths and abilities? Just a thought. But that's the final headline there. Hey, we got you out on a relatively reasonable episode length. We're at about an hour and 5 minutes now, so let's shut this thing down. Hey, I appreciate you tuning in to Unqualified Analysis. That's all, folks. Hey, what a ride we had. I feel like we all learned a whole lot today, and I really appreciate you coming along. If you enjoyed, though, go ahead, like, subscribe, share, rate, all that sort of stuff. Try to help me grow this thing. I don't feel like you're trying hard enough because it's not working, but I really don't hold it against you here. I don't really share podcasts with people either, so I totally understand. But if you could, for me, your friend Caleb here, be much appreciated. You can follow me on the socials at CalebVUA. Shoot me a DM there if you want to opine and get in touch with me. Also, you can, if you want to wait a couple weeks, shoot me an email, unqualifiedanalysis@gmail.com. I'll get to you when I get to you, I suppose. Also, we do this thing once a week, every Tuesday during the off season. Then we go back to the Tuesday-Thursday schedule once the football season comes rolling around. And I cannot wait for the football season to come rolling around. I will tell you what, though, I am enjoying the lack of extra added responsibilities. I will say that. That is pretty nice. Outside of that, though, thank you all so much for tuning in to Unqualified Analysis. As always, I have got no clue what I am talking about. One thing that I learned this week, though, Ireland had its first legal divorce in 1997. And I'm not talking like first legal divorce of like the whatever new administration, like first legal divorce last. I'm talking ever in the existence of the country. First legal divorce, 1997. Real fucking Catholic nation. That's really all you need to know. They are real fucking Catholic. They really don't like divorce that much. So they only legalized it in 1995. And think about it. They legalized it in 1995. Took 2 years for someone to actually get divorced in a nation. I mean, it's a small nation, but we're still talking like, what, 5, 10 million people, give or take, in Ireland. I'm pretty sure. Like, I mean, we're still talking about a lot of people, and not a one of them got divorced for 2 years. Still, I mean, crazy stuff. All right, I'm going to go edit this thing. You guys have yourselves a good week. I guess enjoy the rest of the Stanley Cup finals, the NBA finals, and yeah, I'll see y'all on Tuesday. Take it easy.